Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com, and we're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Now, before we get started, I'm recording this after the passing on a Monday, July 5th, of director Richard Donner. And I just want to take a moment to, acknowledge his importance, especially in comics, but in film. I'll try to make this quick. When I was 13, Superman came out in theaters. And as a kid growing up, reading comic books, I'd seen, Batman, the 1966 show and syndication, stuff like that. But this was kind of the first time that there was comic, superhero was taken seriously. And that entirely has to do with Richard Donner directing Superman and his mantra of verisimilitude. Verisimilitude means to be true, to be true. So in this case, it's be true to the story, be true to the character, and he was along with uncredited screenwriter Tom Mankiewicz. They actually did Superman proud and made arguably, in my opinion, the greatest superhero movie of all time that has never been surpassed. And then, of course, he was going to do Superman 2. He got fired from the project, thankfully. I believe it was around 2010. There is a Superman 2 Richard Donner cut that is there, and I highly recommend that. It really fixes a lot of what I felt the problems was. Even as a kid, Superman 2, I knew there was something wrong and knew something was different from the first one. I also want to point out he also did the Lethal Weapon 4 films, and those were highly successful. He's done a lot of stuff. He started out in television. He directed Gilligan's Island, Twilight Zones, Kojak. He directed Danger Island on the Banana Splits Hour, the live action segment on there. He's done a number of films, one, the underrated Lady Hawk, many films. I highly recommend not only to watch his films, but to also, seek out, especially a lot of the physical media, like I pointed out with Superman and Lethal Weapon, where he actually, has done commentaries on those films, so you can actually hear the man himself and talk about it. He was 91. He had been in ill health for the last couple years. He had a great career, and like I said, I just want to acknowledge, because Superman, the movie, really means a lot to me. So anyways, we got a lot of books. It's a new week. The first week, as always, seems to be a big one, so we're going to try to get these through these as quickly as possible. First up, we have Skybound X that celebrates 10 years of Skybound. So there's 3 stories in there. The first one is Rick Grimes 2000 by Robert Kirkman and artwork by Ryan Ottley and Cliff Rathburn. Then there's an Ultra Mega story written and drawn by James Herron. And then there's a Manifest Destiny story written by Chris Onigogs, with artwork by Matthew Roberts. And then finally, Clementine Lives, written and drawn by Tilly Walden. Now, there's going to be one of these every week, I believe, for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And it's going to spotlight Skybound titles that have come out over the 10 years. So, obviously, the Rick Grimes 2000 is a Walking Dead story that is basically, it's the Walking Dead all over again, except for aliens have now come down, and Rick Grimes is the, kind of the bionic man. He's got like a bionic arm, and, everybody has these weird kind of superpowers. It was interesting. Obviously, Kirkman, has always written, Walking Dead for, it seems like, a million years now. Ryan Ottley is the artist on Invincible. And I could be wrong, but this possibly maybe the first time Ryan Ottley has actually drawn a Walking Dead story. Next, the Ultra Mega. I really love James. You know, the first arc that he did. You know, if you see my reviews, I was a really big fan of it. I really like this. It's a nice small little story. It kind of, you know, it kind of gives the human side of that Ultra Mega story, and I really enjoy it. The Manifest Destiny. I'd read the first few issues. It's been quite a while since I had read it. This was interesting because it had to do with like some of the creatures in the story. So that was kind of an interesting take. I think that was an interesting idea. It's just like a cute little story. The artwork by Matthew Roberts is really just really nice. And then finally, Clementine Liz. So she's a character from the Walking Dead Telltale series video game. And so this story is a bridge from the ending of that storyline in the video game, and it leads into next year's. There's going to be a graphic novel because Skybound's starting a young adult line. And so Tilly Walden, who has done a number of young adult books, is she's doing it. So this is kind of a bridge story between that. So it kind of gives you a taste of the character if you haven't played the video games, but it's a bridge story between those two. This is actually really nice. So it's a nice prestige format book. It's a really good deal for $5. Next week's going to have three. Now the Rick Grimes 2000 is going to be, I believe, in every issue, so that's going to be a multi-part story. But then the follow-up story, the other stories are going to be done by the creators of their original story. So it'll be interesting to see. So it's kind of, it's a sampler book, and it's actually, I mean, for $5, it's a really good deal. So I think you should check it out, especially if you haven't read some of those books. This will give you like an idea of what those books are like. So next up, we have Justice League Infinity #1, written by J.M. DeMatteis and James Tucker, with artwork by Ethan Beavers. Now, this is, DeMatteis and Tucker wrote on the Justice League. There was Justice League, and then it went to Justice League Unlimited, the animated series that was done for Cartoon Network. And I'm sure most of you have seen those. They were really great. So this is in that universe. So it's kind of like, Batman, the animated series, Superman, where it has that animation style, kind of that Bruce Timm look. And it's the Justice League. So it's kind of, they can use whoever they want. And this issue basically is Flash's birthday. And then Granny Goody and Cabal crash it. And because they're going to take over Earth because Darkseid's disappeared or whatever. He's gone. And then, they're just fun stories. It's an all ages book. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, DeMatteis and Tucker know these characters really well, but I think the interesting thing is there's kind of a subplot with Martian Manhunter, trying to find himself. So it's not just, I would say, kind of a typical all ages book. There's actually kind of a lot of meat on the bone here, but it definitely works well as an all ages book. But certainly if you're a fan of the animated series, you're going to love this book. And Beaver's artwork is actually really nice here. He does a good job capturing that cartoon style. It's just a fun little book, and once again, it's fairly self-contained, but there's obviously subplots that are going to continue through the series or a mini series. I'm not sure how many issues it's going to be. But I think it's worth checking out. It was a fun book this week. Next up, we have Hellboy in the B.P.R.D. I have to go slow because I always mess it up. The Secret of Chesbro House #1. It's written by Mike Mignola and Christopher Golden, with artwork by Sean McManus. So what this is these are side stories with Hellboy. It kind of allows them to do Hellboy stories because Hellboy's dead or in hell. And so this, some of the B.P.R.D. stories don't have Hellboy. Some of them, do, and some of them don't. This one does. And it's a haunted house story. It's really simple. It's really basic. But the real win for this book is Sean McManus's artwork. I have been a huge fan of him, since forever. He's done a lot of stuff. He's done a majority of a lot of his work at DC. He did Dr. Fate for a period. He did a Sandman story arc. So he's been around for quite a while. And he's just a really fabulous artist, and I love his take on Hellboy and his art in general. The way he does the expressions and everything. So, it's a fun ghost story, and you have Sean McManus's art. It's a big win. It's a 2-issue story. I really highly recommend it. I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, Sean McManus's artwork, and, if you've never seen it, this is a great opportunity to see what a great talent he is. And Magnolia and Golden just deliver a really fun story. And, it's just a blast. It was a lot of fun. Next up, we have Mamo, #1, written and drawn by Saz Millage. So I don't know if this is a foreign piece or if it's original, but it's really, first of all, the art is just strikingly beautiful. It's a really good looking book, but and that was the first thing I noticed when I looked at it. But when I read it, it really, so what it is this girl, she finds this other girl who's a witch, and she needs help. Her mom is sick, but she thinks she's cursed. And so, this young witch, doesn't want to help. And then she finds out that it's possibly because, she doesn't work in that territory. It's her grandmother's territory where the mom and the daughter live. And so she goes there to find out that it's actually apparently her grandmother that's cursing the woman and the town. So, that will be interesting to see. It really reminded me of Studio Ghibli in the sense of the story, obviously, a bit of Kiki's and a little bit of Spirited Away, kind of that, that feeling, but it just really, the story was really good. And I think that Millage, really captures the spirit of young girls, and it's just the dialogue is just perfect, and it just feels right, and of course, once again, I go back, the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. It is really a great looking book, and it's a really good read, and it's a good all ages book. That's the other thing, and it's under the Boombox label, and that's their young adult label. So I really highly recommend it. I really, really enjoyed that book this week, and I really think you should check it out. Next up, we have Ordinary Gods #1, written by Kyle Higgins, with artwork by Philippe Watanabe. Now, this is interesting so what it is this world has been broken up into, what it is there is, gods that have gone through, the universe and stuff. And, they have each god has a separate thing. And what it is they battle, they basically try to, there's a revolt and they try to kill the gods, but gods are immortal, so you can't kill them. They keep bringing them back, so they decide they're going to banish them to Earth. But then what it is the people who are revolting actually get sent to Earth. So what it is gods are basically, the revolters are inhabiting, they've taken possession of humans that don't know who they are, but and so it's that kind of reincarnation, all that, that basic plot. And so what it is one of the leaders is trying to find them to get them, because the gods are going to come and try to destroy them. So that's the basic premise. It kind of I wouldn't say that the first issue bowled me over. I think it was decent, but it was kind of it was a little, the story at times is a bit on the convoluted side. It just it kind of jumped around a little bit. And I wouldn't, like I said, I think there's some good ideas here, but I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed with the story. I think Higgins, like I said, he has some good ideas, but it just didn't quite, it didn't quite 100% gel. I think there's, like I said, good ideas, but we'll see. I'll give it a second issue to see if it kind of smooths out a little bit. I will say Watanabe's artwork is actually pretty nice here. Does a nice job. There's some like battle scenes, but once again, with the dialogue, you have to be able to capture that, and he does that pretty well here. It was an okay. I think, it wasn't overwhelming, but with a big week, I wouldn't, it's kind of an iffy pick. I wouldn't say it's a pass, but it's not much above that. Next up, we have Blacksmith #1, written by Eric Pilecki, with artwork by Wendell Cavalcant. So this is a werewolf story. It's plain and simple. It's a werewolf story. So you take a werewolf story and mash it together with a detective story, and you have the basic plot here. So it starts off that this girl gets shot with a silver bullet. So she's a werewolf, and why is she? She was on a job to find to catch a guy that was cheating on his wife. But it appears that was a setup, and then we find out that she is being hunted, but we don't know why. So that's the basic story there. The interesting thing about this, I like the story. It wasn't necessarily overwhelming, but I enjoyed it. But I actually the interesting thing was that Cavalcant's artwork is nice, and it's actually in black and white, which actually I think really benefits the only thing I would have liked maybe a little bit more is maybe some shading, because it's just straight up black and white artwork, where some shading, especially given the detective and somewhat noirish aspect of the story, I think that would have helped it a little bit. It does look nice, and the artwork's fine. I just would have liked a little shading to kind of, like some gray tones and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's a pretty minor complaint. I like the story. It was kind of intriguing. We don't see too many werewolf books. So, I think it's worth checking out for that, especially, with kind of the horror angle. Next up, we have Clans of Barbary #1. Written by Peter Blackie and Rob Blackie, with artwork by Daniel Main. Now, this is kind of an interesting story. So what it is there was a war with, the kind of the different countries. Now each country, like there's an ice country that, gets the fuel for the spaceship. There's the farm country that, gets the food. So there's now like an agreement between all of them that they share their stuff, but they're only, they are only allowed to stay in their own country and stuff like that. So what it is there's this pilot who's, taking people to other planets, obviously, semi-illegally. And it gets shot down, and the only ones that survive the crash is him and a little girl. So he feels bad for the girl, so he ends up kind of adopting her and say, hey, it's my daughter. And so that's kind of the basic thing where and then we kind of see the different fractions, and how, like, and then there's like robot police. So it's like, you're not supposed to be on this planet, blah, blah, blah. You're not supposed to be, talking to this person because they're part of a different clan. So what it is Rob and Peter Blackie, they've written television shows. So the basic premise here is not anything particularly original, in that respect. I think, I will say that they did a good job where a lot of screenwriters and authors struggle with comic books. It does deliver pretty well for first issue. It sets things up, gives you the characterization, and they understand that it's, you're not going to read the next chapter for a month. So they don't dwell on too much. They're obviously getting exposition across, but it doesn't drag on too much. The story does move along. So, it's kind of okay. I think there's promise here, but, will it be able to overcome the basic, story that you've kind of read a million times? I will say Main's artwork is actually really nice here and does a really good job of, capturing, the emotions, because a lot of it is people standing around talking. There's not a lot of action here. So he does a good job with that, and it is a nice looking book. So, I don't know. I think if the premise interests you, it might be, I think it's worth checking out. Kind of a medium, is okay. Next up, we have Masters of the Universe Revelations #1 with a story by Kevin Smith and Rob David, with the script by Tim Sheridan, with artwork by Mindy Lee. So this is a prequel to the new Masters of the Universe series that's going to be premiering on Netflix in August. So what this is it sets up what is to come in that series. It's a prequel story. So, it's the same basic, it's all the Master Universe, it's just they look a little different. So this kind of sets up of how He-Man got the sword and, kind of the mythology. It goes back to with like where his father and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a basic prequel. The thing is that, it was kind of okay. I mean, I liked He-Man okay, but I was never like, oh my God, He-Man was like the greatest thing. It was fine for what it was. It was Filmation just doing Filmation, and the whole thing was to sell toys. That's what it was all about. And I get there's a fondness for it, with people that grew up. The story here is okay. I wouldn't say that it was mind-numbingly brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, obviously, if you're a huge Master Universe fan, you're gonna love it. The question is, if you are a casual Masters of the Universe fan, what's your thoughts? And, once again, it's okay. I think, it was enjoyable for what it is, but let's be honest, it's still, a story that's based on toys. It's, the toys came first, the series came second. So, it's fine for what it is. If you're a big fan, you're going to love it. On the one side, I will say, if you have kids and they like Master Universe or something like that, or swords and that kind of stuff, it's a good book for them. So that's a plus. Next up, we have Fight Girls #1, written and drawn by Frank Cho. So what this is, it's really simple. He is doing the Hunger Games. There's, I think there's 10 girls, and whoever, it's like she's going to become queen. Whoever wins is going to become queen. So it's really a simple premise. That's all it is. So you have Frank Cho drawing pretty girls, pretty athletic girls, and dinosaurs and monsters. That's it. It's Frank Cho just being Frank Cho. The story itself, it's okay. It's not, once again, it's just the Hunger Games. It's all it is. It's not mind-numbingly deep or anything. Frank Cho's the artist. That's why you're buying the book, because of his pretty artwork. Overall story, okay. Artwork, pretty. I don't know what else to tell you. It's okay. It wasn't, I will give it, because he can be very tongue-in-cheek with the TNA, but this was actually played pretty straightforward. So I'll definitely give him, points for that. I mean, there's a little subtle humor here and there, and he's good, but otherwise the women are actually wearing clothing, and, it's not a TNA fest, which it could have obviously turned into, but it's not. It's fine for what it is. You're buying it because of Frank Cho's artwork. So, next up, we have Wonder Girl #2, written by Joelle Jones, with artwork by Joelle Jones and Adriana Mello. So, this continues the story of Flora, Yara Flora, and, she's in Brazil, and she hasn't become Wonder Girl yet. So that's, Jones is setting that up, but we're starting to learn. So in the last issue, she fell in the water and was attacked by a mermaid. So in this issue, there's we find, the mermaid ends up giving her lasso, or her bolas in this case. And there's also kind of a war brewing within the gods about, she's kind of new. She's an Amazonian, but kind of new. So they're trying, the gods are trying to figure out, where she kind of fits into everything. So Wonder Girl the actual Wonder Girl from the Teen Titans is sent to try to find out what's going on. So that's kind of what happens in the second issue. Once again, I'm enjoying the story. Jones is really doing a nice job here, setting up her character and her mythology, which is really great. Obviously, her artwork is really stunning. But this issue, she's joined by Mello, and you can definitely tell when the two artists are doing. Now, that's not to say that Mello's artwork is not nice. It's actually very nice. But, it's obviously, it's a little disappointing because Jones's artwork is so gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, it is not a knock against Mello. She does a really nice job. but you can kind of tell the difference. But ultimately, it works, and I think where the artwork is switched off, I think works really well. So that's kind of a plus on that. So they did a good job of balancing, because Jones does the Flora stuff and Mello does like the Wonder Girl, Teen Titans stuff and the God stuff. So it's a good balance. It's still a great looking book. I still really am enjoying it, and I'm really excited to see where Jones takes her story. Next up, we have Basilisk #2, written by Colin Bunn with artwork by Jonas Scarf. Now, this was, in a way, it's kind of, they're kind of like X-Men, and they came to Earth, or and kind of killed people and stuff. So there's and then of course in the last issue there was one of the victim's daughters. She wants revenge, so she captures the I guess the best way to kind of describe it, like Medusa character. And she had separated from the other one. So it appears that she is trying to, not use her power. She doesn't want to like kill people or hurt people. Where it appears, as far as we can tell in the second issue, that the other ones are, like they go into a diner and then they end up killing everybody, So I don't know that they're necessarily the bad guys, but it does seem like, what Bunn is setting up with the story, there's a fraction in the team. Now, we don't know that all the other ones are, bad guys or evil. We don't know that yet. So we're kind of, he's kind of continuing the exposition from the first story and, fleshing out the characters. So this issue, we get to see the other, kind of mutants. And it's interesting. I think there's a lot to digest here, because there's a lot going on, and you have to kind of take it all in. And but we still don't know what quite everything is, how it's all coming together. So, but I like I said, I did enjoy the first issue, and I think the second issue does a good job of continuing the story from the first issue, which is always important, and giving you a reason to come back. And the other thing is that, Scarf's artwork is really, really nice here. He does a really nice job because, once again, a lot of it is characters sitting around talking, and you have to make that visually interesting because, they're just, you're hearing dialogue. He does a really, it's a really good looking book. So, I'm intrigued. If you like the first issue, I think you should, continue to give it a chance. I think it's got some possibilities. There are some basic tropes here, but I do think that Bunn is mixing it up enough to make it worthwhile. Next up, we have The Nice House on the Lake, #2, written by James Tynan IV with artwork by Alvarado Martinez Bueno. Now, I really, really loved this book. This is, I love horror, but horror comics are a tough one to do. So the basic premise, the second issue, the world has been set on fire. People are melting in the streets. But this group of people have been invited by one of their friends to this lake house, and they're safe. This whole lake house is safe. And so they also learn that like the food never runs out because it replenishes itself. And so it's Walter is like the friend who has brought them all here. We still don't know if he's an alien or what the heck's going on, but they're starting to kind of like, so we're starting, the characters are starting, like, they want to go home, but they know if they go home, they're going to die. Everybody they know is dead or dying. And it's just, so they're trying, it would be like you're trapped, but you're not forcibly trapped. That's really the best way to kind of think of the premise here. So Tynan is really developing, kind of a social commentary, kind of, sort of story here of how these people are reacting to this, these events. And it just makes for a really interesting character study. And that's really what I love about this book. I mean, there's kind of the horror aspect, the whole end of the world fiesta, but it's really a character study, which is really, really intriguing. The other big win for this book is Martinez Bueno's artwork, which is just gorgeous. This is a really good looking book. And once again, it goes back to how good an artist is, because they're standing around talking most of the time. And just if you can capture that and make the reader feel their emotions and everything, it's really a great looking book. I really love this book. The story is great. The artwork is fabulous. I cannot recommend. I love this book. Next up, The Conjuring, The Lover, number 2. So there's 2 stories. The main story is written by David L. Johnson McGoldrick and Rex Ogle, with artwork by Gary Brown. Then there's a backup story by McGoldrick and Ogle with art. The backup story is by Chi Grayson, pardon me, and Juan Fiera. The macabre mail order ads are written by McGoldrick, Ogle, and Johnson, and drawn by Dave Johnson. So apologies on Grayson and Freire they do the second story. Now, the first story is the continuing story from the first issue. It's about a girl going off to college, and she's being stalked by demons. That's the basic premise here. So that was we saw that in the first part of the story. This one kind of continues it, and we still don't quite know, why she's being, followed and, attacked. So that hasn't quite been, it's more, I wouldn't say that the story moved a lot further along in this second issue. It's still interesting, but the next issues, I will have to say on the first story, they've really got to get going, because, okay, we know that she's being stalked by this demons. We don't know, but what's the point? And so I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm like, okay, we've now had 2 issues of kind of the same story. We need to get going here. On the plus side, Brown's artwork is really nice. He does a job of making it look really creepy and everything. I really enjoyed that. The second story by Grayson and Frere was a lot of fun. So what it is this girl's looking for a wedding dress. She finds a wedding dress. She looks up, because it has the name of the owner. The original lady who owned the dress killed her husband because she was cheating. She killed him on his wedding day. She cut his eyes out. And so I will not give any away the rest of the story. You might be able to figure it out, but it's a good, Twilight Zone type story. That's what I love about these short backup stories, that, you have to tell it all right there. And then, of course, the Johnson and, macabre mail orders are just a blast. You can mail away. This one you can mail away for real vomit, which I thought was kind of fun. So they're just a real joy. I am enjoying it. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed in the main story that it didn't it kind of spun its wheels a bit. But overall, I'm still enjoying it. The backup story was great. The ads are fun. So I'll give it a little leeway, but I was a little disappointed in the main story, and hopefully they'll get it going in the next issue. Next up, we have Crushin' Lobo number 2, written by Mariko Tamaki, with artwork by Amanake Nahupan. So basically, Crush and her girlfriend have broken up, but she's still, they don't hate each other. I mean, they kind of do, but it's not, so once again, relation problems, we all have relationship problems. So she's also heading off to go visit her dad. And apparently Lobo has, seen the light and becoming like nice Lobo, we think. We don't know yet. But so as she's flying there, there's a she stops and she wants to get coffee, and one of the the guys that like a bad guy she hates, it's like this tentacle guy, is serving coffee. She gives him crap. He ends up sneaking onto her ship. All hell breaks loose. It's just, once again, I wouldn't say that this is mind-numbingly brilliant, but it's kind of fun. And I do like that Tamaki is developing the human side of Crush with, her relationship with her, her girlfriend, her dad, and, kind of somewhat being a teenager. And in that aspect, I think the book works really well. beyond that, the story's pretty basic. I wouldn't say there's a lot of meat on the bone of other than that, but that's, I think, enough to definitely, I think you giving the book a shot. I enjoy it. Once again, I didn't think it was like brilliant, but I thought it was really good. And I think, and Nalpan's artwork is actually really, really nice. The artwork just is really, really good looking. And it does a great balance between capturing the action and the fun and just the human like emotions when she's like thinking about her girlfriend. You can see the sadness in her face. And it's a fun little book. It's going to be a fun little miniseries. I don't think it's going to be mind-numbingly brilliant, but not everything has to be the most brilliant thing you've read. Is it enjoyable? Yeah, I think it's enjoyable. Next up, we have Batman The Adventures Continues Season 2, Number 2, written by Alan Burnett and Paul Dini, with artwork by Ty Templeton. Now, this finishes the two-part kind of Court of the Owl story with Batman and Deadman. And, it's just, look, it's Batman the Animated Series. It's an all-ages book. It's a blast. If you love the animated series, the story is simple, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily written for kids, but it's great all ages, but it's not, they talk about zombies and there's Deadman, and one of the funniest thing is Deadman possesses Alfred, which is really hilarious. It's fun. It's just fun. And if you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series, and who isn't, it's a great book. I mean, obviously Burnett and Dini wrote a ton, they produced and wrote a bunch of the Batman animated series. Ty Templeton has been drawing, on and off Batman, animated style for years. The artwork is just gorgeous. This was a digital first, which is available digitally, but this second issue is the first time that it's been in print. So they are going to be printing all the digital ones, and I just think it looks better. I just think I'm not a big fan of digital. I think it just works better in print, and it gives you a chance to really enjoy Ty Templeton's artwork, I think, the way you need to. So once again, just fun diversion, great all ages book. Next up, we have Good Asian number 3, written by Pornsak Pichait, with artwork by Alexandre Tenefki. Now, I have said this before. I'm really enjoying this book. Now, it is obviously set in the past, but the thing about Pichait's story is it's very relevant to today in more ways than one, in more ways than it shouldn't be. But the way that he is portraying these characters is absolutely wonderful, because you really get it. It's for some, look, I'm not of Asian descent. I don't know a lot about Asian history and stuff. And that's what's been really great about this book, is that he's writing a fictional story, but using a lot of things from, true things from the period. And every issue also has a backup that talks about timelines of the period and, how Asians were treated back then. And it really, but it's also a great noir story, which is where it really shines, because it's like that PI thing, but it's takes place in Chinatown with Asian characters, and it's just it's this great detective story, which is really, really just, it continues to just get better and better each issue. And the other thing that really makes it work is, because it's a noir story, you have to have somebody that's able to capture that noir look and feel. And Tenefsky's artwork just really nails it. And gives you that feeling and of the period, of the noir aspect. And it just, this book just continues to really impress. I really enjoy it, and it just keeps getting better and better. And if you haven't checked it out, I really, really recommend it. It's a really good book, and it's, even though it's set in the past, it's exceptionally timely, and it's really worth checking out. Next up, we have Geiger number 4, written by Jeff Johns, with artwork by Gary Frank. Now, this continues to kind of unfold at a, I don't want to say a slow pace, but it's unfolding very methodically. And I think that's actually working pretty well. I think the only downside is that it's by the time you get to the end of the issue, you kind of want more, So it's that's always a catch-22 when you're enjoying something, but then you kind of don't get enough of it. And I think Johns and Frank are delivering a really interesting story that has a lot of interesting things. So now we have Geiger is taking the kids to, like a safe area, but then as they're driving along, it's basically the Mad Max, into the world apocalypse. There's this group of, mutants that are eating people, they want their in, so they're going to eat the kids and stuff. So Geiger has to beat them up and everything. And then we also find out the king of Las Vegas, what's kind of going on in that. I don't want to spoil it. It continues to be, a fun book. John's, is doing an interesting story. I think, the story moves along each issue. It just, like I said, it just kind of like, you don't kind of get enough. It's enjoyable, but I want more, and I want to, read what's going on, but I have to wait a month. So that's the disappointing part of having to wait another month for the next part. What can I say about Gary Frank's artwork? It's just absolutely beautiful. He's doing a bang up job here. It's a great looking book, but there's the action stuff, but really he's one of his best assets is emotions. He's always captured emotions so well, and he does it really well here, especially with the kids. Because capturing emotion with kids is really, I think, a bit more challenging than adults, because you have to do it a little differently, because kids show their emotions differently than adults do, and Frank just nails it on here. It continues to be a fun book, and I'm enjoying it as it goes along. Next up, we have Sensational Wonder Woman #5, with this issue written by Amy Chu, with artwork by Maria Laura Sanapo. Now, this is once again another digital first book, but and this is the first printing of it. And what these are these are standalone stories for, not necessarily readers of, Wonder Woman or comics. So they're like, they're kind of those gateway comics. And I think they're very important because, especially with characters like Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, people see the movies and they want to read comics, and then, you give them an issue of like, the current Wonder Woman, which is like part 6 of, this ongoing story, where they're going to be like, well, this doesn't make any sense to me. That's what's good about these books. And I really have to give Chu, she really does a charming story here. What it is there's this woman in a nursing home, and she met Wonder Woman during World War II, and so she's friends with Wonder Woman. Everybody thinks she's crazy, or she's losing her mind, like she's a crazy old lady. And so what it is she lives there, but she kind of escapes, and she's telling the story of how she met Wonder Woman to this little kid, like the park that's right next to where she lives. And so they bring her back, and then the lady who runs the nursing home said, apparently she's living there kind of rent free, and it's like, well, we need to make money here, and and it's the typical thing. And I won't give away the ending of the story, but I have to really give it that Chu delivers a charming and heartwarming story that not only is great for new readers, but I think if you're a fan of like Wonder Woman or comics, you're gonna love this story. Sanapo's artwork really just brings it home. She captures it all, and it's just, I really enjoyed this. It was just a sweet story, and that's all it tried to be, and it just works well with the story and the artwork. It's just wonderful. I loved it, and you should check it out. Next up, we have Nocterra #5, written by Scott Snyder, with artwork by Tony S. Daniel. So now, this issue, we get to kind of, Sanctuary. They've made it to Sanctuary. They're able to, there is light there, so they're able to help her brother, and they're able to reverse the darkness virus that infects humans. But there's also, so that's the basic premise of this story. Does she want to stay there now that her brother's cured? Do they want to stay there because they're able to stay there? But there's a twist at the end that I don't want to give away, but if you read it, I think I have a problem because I worry because it's a very basic, like, really, this is your twist. Like, it's a cliche twist. So that, so I'm not necessarily worried until I read it, but the cliffhanger twist is very cliche, and I hope that Snyder doesn't kind of go down a path that's like, really, this is your big twist to the story. I've loved this book so far. I really enjoy it. I think that's a lot going for it. And I'm not saying that the twist is bad. I'm just saying it's cliche. So we'll kind of see where that goes. Daniel's artwork just continues to just nail it. In this issue, there's not a lot of action. So, once again, it's a great looking book. The story's been good. I just worry a little bit. I'm not like, oh my God, he's totally screwed it up. I don't think it's that. I think him and Daniel are doing a good job, and we'll see where that cliche ending goes in the next issue. Next up, we have Swamp Thing number 5, written by Ram V, with artwork by John McCrea. Now, John McCrea is I'm assuming a guest artist this issue, and it also guest stars Constantine. Now, this is kind of somewhat of a standalone story a little bit. Now, it does weave within the storyline that Ram V is writing here. With the new, Swamp Thing. But it's kind of a self-contained story, which was actually good. And of course it's got John Constantine, which is always a win. And, it's just, like I said, the mythology of the storyline that he's doing here in this miniseries is continuing. It's just kind of a side story that fits into that story. So, like I said, it's got John Constantine. I'm a big fan of John McCrea's artwork. He's done a lot of stuff throughout the year. You've probably seen him do a number of books. I really enjoy it. He really draws John really, really well. He does a really nice Swamp Thing too. And it was a good story. I think it was good because it kind of gives you a breather to what's going on in the overall story arc. And I actually like that. And I think it's a wise choice, but in this issue, because we've got 3 more issues to go. So it was kind of a halftime breather a little bit. And I actually really enjoyed that. I thought it was a wise choice story-wise. And once again, John McCrea's artwork is really nice. I also really want to point out that the variant cover is by Brian Bolland, and I haven't seen a lot of his work lately, and I had to buy that cover because I love Brian Bolland. He's actually drawn a few Swamp Thing covers over the years, back in the 90s and the early 2000s. But he hasn't drawn Swamp Thing in quite a while, so that was a nice little treat. So once again, I'm really enjoying this miniseries of Swamp Thing. Next up, we have Firepower number 13, written by Robert Kirkman with artwork by Chris Samnee. Now, once again, I'm really loving this book, but it's kind of hard to recommend to new readers because you really need to go back. You can't pick up this issue because this issue is from the fallout of the main storyline from the first 12 issues. So you'd really be kind of lost. But what I will say the trade, the third trade came out for the first 13 issues, or for the first 12 issues. That includes the prelude or there's the prelude, then the 3, so this is the third one. So you can catch up that way. This issue, they're back. They're back from the main, storyline from the second one. So now they're trying to somewhat try to be a family and try to go back to normal. And yet, especially with the kids, they've learned how to fight. And then we find out that one of the kids, I will not give it away, but also apparently has the same firepower that Dad does. So, that opens up a lot in, the relationship with the dad and the mom and the kids is going on. There's also the relationship with the parents and, her work and all the, so there's kind of a lot of, there's a lot of, deep, story in here with characterization. And that's really what this is. And there's also what's going on at, with the bad guy. So we kind of see a little bit of maybe, we're not quite done with him yet. So that's what's going on. As always, I love Chris Samnee's artwork. I really, really enjoy his artwork. It's a really good looking book. And I think it's just the way he portrays the characters and everything. It's really, really just a wonderful book. And it's a book that shame on you if you're not reading. That's all I can say at this point. And finally, we have Space Bastards #7. Now, this issue has 2 stories. They're both written by Eric Peterson and Joe Aubrey. And they both focus on Manny. The first story is written by is drawn by Simon Bisley, and the second one is drawn by Clint Langby. So the first story is so one of his people that hires him to basically go and kill people is going to run for like senator. So he I'm not really going to need you anymore because I need to kind of go legit. So Manny gets kind of pissed. And so what this story is he finds out that guy who's running for senator is going to assassinate the other senator so he will win. So Manny's like pissed because this guy like cut him loose. He's like, I enjoy my job. I like killing people, And so he actually goes and defends the other guy and kills all the assassins that come after him. And so there's that's the first story. And so the second story is Manny gets caught and then sent to a prison planet where nobody escapes. But guess what? Manny figures a way out. Mostly, he doesn't necessarily figure out a way to escape. He's just pissed and he starts killing all the guards and, just because he's like, I don't want to be here. So like, I will get out by killing everybody. And so that's the basic premise of the story. So I think it's interesting because the story, this book has, started off, Manny has always been there the whole time. And there was kind of the mail order thing where you just had to get the package there. You just had to survive getting the package there because everybody else wanted, could get the package. And so now with like last issue and this issue, we're kind of like they're developing Manny as a character, and Peterson and Aubrey, this is actually a really smart move because they could continue to just do the mail thing and that would be fine and fun. But I think actually developing the character of Manny to he's still just kind of a killing machine. And it's not like these stories are particularly deep, but they do kind of give like Manny a character. He runs a little deeper. Yes, he's kind of, let's be honest, it's a little bit like Lobo, let's just say it. But it was fun. Of course, Bisley's artwork is just absolutely fabulous. It's Simon Bisley. Especially my favorite thing in this issue is like at one point when he's killing somebody, he pops out a cake and icing is still on his head like a wig, and it's just hilarious looking. Langby's artwork is actually really nice. The only thing that was a little, I don't know if it was the printing or whatever, but the artwork was a little on the dark side. I mean, you could see everything, but it just seemed, a part of it is when you have that darkness, really dark artwork, and then, kind of the shiny paper, it was a little, it felt a little maybe too dark, but it wasn't. The artwork's actually really nice. I really enjoyed the artwork. And, it'll be interesting to see where they take these stories, after this issue. Because there's some subplots that might continue from this story with the election and all that kind of stuff. And, maybe Manny and other things. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm still enjoying it. It's, it's very tongue in cheek, very violent, but, very fun violent in a weird way. So that's going to do it this week. Sorry it took so long. There's a lot of books to get through. So hopefully, that helps you decide what you, might want to buy and what you should skip. So as always, public service announcement, support your local comic shop. I get mine at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, which is a really great store run by Ryan and Annie and the new kid, Eduardo. They have a great pull service. Make sure you don't miss any books that you subscribe to. They offer a discount on graphic novels and trades every day. They have a sister store in Culver City run by Chris and her team, Pulp Fiction Culver City. Once again, support your local comic shop. It's very important. Please get vaccinated if you can. We're still in a tough time. Things are getting better, but it could get worse again if we don't get vaccinated. I still wear my mask out in public when I'm out. I've been vaccinated. I think it's important. I still social distance. And finally, just please be kind to each other out there. It's still a tough time out there for everybody. So being kind is really helps everyone. And we'll end this episode with a great salute to the late, great Richard Donner, with the final thing I will say is Goonies never die. That's going to be it. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.